All right, so get this. Today we're diving into this idea that you, the listener, you're the one calling the shots when it comes to brands.
It's a real power shift, isn't it?
Totally.
Yeah.
And we're getting into it with, well, you guys shared some chapters from Customers First by Bolivar Bueno, right?
Yeah.
And it's got some really, I don't know, like thought-provoking stuff about how these big iconic brands, how they're actually built.
It really challenges the old way of thinking about marketing. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah.
It's not enough for companies to just like shout their message from the rooftops these days,
Yeah.
To really become a powerhouse, they need to get why you, the customer, do what you do.
Yeah.
What's going on beneath the surface?
Yeah, yeah.
What makes you choose one brand over another? What's that all about?
And he doesn't just, like, talk the talk. He backs it up with all these stories of brands we all know, which I always find helpful.
Right.
Like, remember the Volkswagen Beetle?
Yeah,
Back when everyone was driving those huge, gas guzzlers? And the Beetle's like, what is that?
It was almost like a quiet rebellion, wasn't it?
Totally, yeah.
The Beetle tapped into this feeling that people had, this desire to be different.
To not follow the crowd.
Yeah, exactly. And it wasn't just a passing trend,
Right.
It resonated so deeply that it became, well, iconic.
Okay, so let's unpack this whole idea of customers as brand architects, because it is kind of a total power shift.
It is.
It's like, he argues that we're not just passively soaking up marketing messages anymore. We're
Right.
actively shaping how brands are seen and even building like communities around the brands we love.
And the fascinating thing is this isn't just, some marketing theory.
Yeah.
It's tied to our very human need for connection.
Oh, interesting.
Think about it, like even beyond the things we need to survive,
Yeah, yeah.
like food, shelter, all that. Humans, we crave a sense of belonging.
Not belonging.
Maslow, he nailed it with his hierarchy of needs.
Did, yeah.
And as our world changes and those, old kind of traditional ways of finding that belonging fade,
Yeah.
brands have kind of stepped in to fill that void.
Interesting.
You're probably seeing this like play out in your own life,
Well,
right?
absolutely, yeah. And it makes you realize that brands are so much more than just like logos and products, right?
Right.
They're tapping into something much, much deeper.
Yeah.
Like like life is good.
Yeah.
Okay, they've gone way beyond just slapping a slogan on a t-shirt. They've created a whole movement around optimism.
Right.
And people want to be a part of it.
Exactly. Life is good. Understands that people don't just buy products, they buy into a feeling, an idea,
Yeah.
a community.
Totally.
And that sense of belonging, that emotional connection, that's what turns casual customers into like diehard fans.
Yeah, yeah.
They're not just buying a t-shirt, they're buying into a community of optimism and positivity. That's powerful stuff.
It is powerful. So how do brands create that kind of loyalty, that emotional connection?
Right.
Well, Bueno lays out this framework that he calls the brand model. And get this.
Yeah.
He compares it to a recipe.
I love that analogy.
It's so good, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just like a good recipe, a strong brand has key ingredients that when, combined correctly,
Yes.
create something truly special.
So good. I love this idea of a brand model as a recipe, right?
Yeah.
But instead of like, flour and sugar,
Right.
we're talking about things like your ideal customer's deepest desires, those unconscious needs they might not even know they have.
It gets deep, right?
It's getting deep.
Yeah.
Okay, so yeah.
And just like with a recipe, once you understand the basic ingredients of a successful brand, you can start to experiment,
Right.
adapt,
Right.
create something truly unique and powerful.
Okay.
So let's break down these ingredients, yeah. Bueno talks about something he calls brand lovers. And these are, the people who are absolutely crazy about your brand.
Okay.
They buy everything you put out, tell all their friends about you.
Yeah.
They're practically like walking billboards for your company,
Yeah, they're the ones who like wait in line for the new iPhone, right?
Right.
Or like geek out over the latest Nike release.
Exactly. And here's the thing. These brand lovers, they aren't just valuable because they spend money, right?
Right.
They become like an extension of the brand itself,
Yeah.
you know?
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, they're spreading the word, influencing others.
Yeah.
Ignoring them is like leaving money on the table.
Totally.
Yeah.
Like, it's like that story he tells about, like, the Coca-Cola employee who was obsessed with Harley Davidson.
Yeah.
Like, he was a diehard Harley fan before he even owned a motorcycle.
Wow.
That's the kind of passion we're talking about.
Yeah.
They're not just buying a product, they're buying into, like, a whole identity.
Right. Precisely. And that brings us to another key ingredient, understanding the, what does he call them? The humanistic drivers
Yeah.
behind customer behavior.
Okay.
Yeah. These are those deep-seated needs that we all have, right?
Right.
Things like security, belonging,
Yeah.
the desire for status, self-actualization.
Right. Right. Yeah.
Brands that can tap into those needs, like on a subconscious level.
Yeah.
Those are the ones that really win, I think.
So it's about understanding not just what people buy, but like why they buy it.
Yes.
What's the like underlying motivation,
Exactly.
the emotional need that's being fulfilled?
Exactly. Think about like choosing a bank. Right?
Okay, yeah.
You might think, oh, I'll just go with whoever's got the highest interest rates.
Right.
But what if like a smaller local bank made you feel more secure, more understood?
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Those humanistic drivers, that sense of trust, belonging,
Yeah.
that might outweigh the like purely logical decision.
That makes sense. It's about appealing to the heart as much as the head, right?
Yes, exactly.
Okay, so we've got brand lovers, we've got humanistic drivers.
Right.
What else is in this brand model recipe?
Let's see.
He also talks about using archetypal images.
Yes. The power of archetypes.
Right.
These are those universal symbols and characters that, we're all drawn to.
Right.
The hero, the rebel, the caregiver.
Right.
They tap into these like primal instincts and desires
Yeah.
that we all share,
Yeah.
And when brands use them effectively,
Yeah.
it can be incredibly powerful.
Like Nike, right? With their "Just Do It" slogan and all those ads with like athletes like pushing their limits. It's
Yeah.
like they're not just selling shoes, they're selling like this idea of, achieving your full potential.
Right.
Of overcoming any obstacle.
Exactly.
It makes you think about the brands you're drawn to and why,
Exactly. Nike has mastered the use of the, what would you call it, the hero archetype?
Yeah.
Inspiring people to reach for greatness. And it's not just them. Think about how many brands use imagery of the rebel,
Right.
the one who challenges the status quo.
Right.
Or the caregiver.
Right.
Nurturing, protecting these archetypes. They tap into something deep within us, don't they?
It's like they're speaking a language that our subconscious understands, like instinctively.
Yeah.
And that leads us to another ingredient, cultural stories.
Oh, yeah.
These are the narratives that resonate with people on a deeper level,
Right.
often tapping into like shared values and beliefs.
Think about how, like Harley Davidson, for example, they've woven themselves into the fabric of American culture.
Totally.
It's not just about motorcycles.
Right.
It's about freedom, the open road,
Yes.
that sense of rebellion and individuality.
Yeah.
They've tapped into a powerful cultural narrative that
Yeah.
people want to be a part of.
They're not just selling a bike at that point.
Right.
They're selling a ticket to like a certain kind of life.
Exactly.
A certain vision of freedom and adventure. It's
Yeah.
brilliant.
It's very clever.
So we've got these brand lovers. We're tapping into their deepest needs and desires. We're using these powerful archetypes and cultural stories.
Yes.
But there's one more ingredient that like ties it all together.
Absolutely. The final and arguably the most important ingredient,
Let's hear it.
emotional connection. This is the ultimate goal of building a brand, right?
Yeah, okay.
To create a lasting emotional bond with your customer.
Right.
Do they feel inspired, empowered, understood by your brand?
Okay.
That's what separates the good brands from the truly great ones.
So it's about like moving beyond just selling a product or service.
Yeah.
It's about creating an experience, a
Yeah.
feeling, a relationship.
Right.
And when you get that right,
Yes.
you create this level of loyalty that's almost like unbreakable.
Exactly. Think about a brand like Apple.
Right.
Right. People don't just buy iPhones because they're good phones.
Right.
They buy them because of what they represent.
Right.
Innovation, sleek design,
Right.
that feeling of being part of something exclusive.
Right.
That's the power of emotional connection.
Yeah, it's like you're buying into like a lifestyle, a community, like a whole set of values.
Exactly.
And when you find a brand that aligns with like your own values and aspirations,
Right.
it creates this like powerful bond. And you know what?
Oh.
This whole idea of emotional connection.
Yeah.
This is what leads us to something really intriguing that he talks about. These cult brands.
Oh, yeah.
These are the brands that inspire a level of devotion that like borders on fanaticism.
Yes. The cult brands.
Right.
The ones that people tattoo on their bodies.
Right.
The ones that they will defend to the death.
Yes. Exactly.
These brands, they've cracked the code when it comes to building a community of true believers. And it's not about trickery. It's not about manipulation or anything.
Right.
It's about authenticity.
Yeah.
It's about a deep understanding of their core audience.
So how do they do it? What's like the secret sauce?
Well, he says it goes back to this idea of brand DNA.
Okay.
Just like our human DNA, right?
Yeah.
Determines our physical traits and all that.
Right.
A brand's DNA, it shapes its identity and how it's perceived by the world.
So it's like taking all those ingredients from like the brand model we talked about and like baking them into the, I don't know, the fabric of the brand.
Exactly. You got it.
It's about being intentional, being consistent.
Yes, and it's not like a one-time thing.
Right.
It's an ongoing process of reinforcing those core elements
Right.
in everything you do, from your marketing messages to like how you design your products to the customer service you provide.
It's about walking the walk, not just talking the talk.
Yes, exactly. And that can be tough.
Right.
It takes discipline to like stay true to your brand DNA, especially when you've got all these pressures to follow trends or chase after every new marketing gimmick that comes along, you know?
Totally. But the brands that do stay true to themselves, right,
Yeah.
the ones that resist that temptation to be like all things to all people,
Yeah.
those are the ones that build that like unshakable loyalty.
Yes.
They're not afraid to alienate a few people along the way
Right.
because they know that their like true fans will appreciate that,
They'll get it.
their authenticity.
Exactly. It's like that example from the book about Whole Foods.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
their decision to not sell certain products.
Yeah, like conventional junk food and stuff.
Right. That's a bold move.
It is.
But it's a really powerful way of saying, this is who we are. This is what we stand for.
Totally, yeah. It's not just about creating a brand at that point. It's about creating, like, a movement almost, like a tribe.
A tribe,
A
exactly.
group of people who, like, share your values and beliefs.
Precisely. And when you can tap into that sense of belonging, that feeling of being part of something bigger than yourself,
Yeah.
you create a bond that's just, it's incredibly powerful. People don't just buy your products then. They become like advocates, evangelists, walking, talking billboards for your brand.
And they're just customers anymore. They're, like, part of the family.
Exactly. And that kind of organic growth,
Yeah.
that word-of-mouth marketing,
Yeah.
it's priceless.
It's huge.
You can't buy that kind of authenticity. It comes from building a brand that people truly believe in.
So I guess as we kind of, like, wrap up this deep dive into customers first, what's, like, the one key takeaway? What do we want our listener to, like, walk away with?
I think the biggest thing is don't underestimate the power of the customer.
Oh, interesting.
You know, in today's world, they're not just passive consumers.
Yeah.
They're active participants in shaping the brands they love.
Yeah, that's a good point.
By understanding their motivations, their desires, their deepest needs,
Yeah.
you can create a brand that resonates on a much, much deeper level.
So it's about building, like, relationships, not just transactions.
Exactly.
And it all starts with understanding your ideal customer. Like, what makes them tick? What are their aspirations, their values? Once you understand that, then you can start to build a brand that, like, truly connects with them on an emotional level, right?
Absolutely. And remember, building a successful brand, it's a journey.
Yeah.
It's not a destination.
Right.
It requires constant learning,
Right.
adaptation, a willingness to kind of evolve with your customer.
It's always changing.
Exactly.
Makes sense.
So stay curious, stay connected, and never stop listening to the people that matter most, you know, your customers.
Your customers. Yeah, that's great advice. So to our listener out there, we hope this deep dive has given you some, I don't know, like, food for thought as you kind of navigate this crazy world of branding, right?
It's a wild one out there.
It is a wild one. But remember, you have the power to shape the brands you love.